The Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association presents Trackside Live. Trackside Live is presented by the Ohio State Veterinary Medical Center. Now let's go trackside at the Delaware County Fairgrounds and your host, Frank Froz.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to day 2 of 5 days in Delaware and Trackside Live. I'm Frank Froz, and today I'm joined by 2 of the past presidents of the Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association. To my right, John Konesky and Steve Bateson. Gentlemen, thanks for taking the time to come on out and join us for Trackside Live today.
You are welcome.
John, especially you. You had to get up a little earlier than originally planned to get here to the track because your horse, Stony Ridgetop, is racing today.
Yes, he is. Yep.
So,
14th race.
So we are excited for that. So first, gentlemen, let me ask you, what comes to mind when you think of the Delaware County Fair?
Well, for me, it's a lot of old memories. First time I was here, 1982, Merger was the horse that won. I came with my next door neighbor, Winifred Warner, and her husband, Hap Warner, was a past OHHA president as well from Wood County. And I got the opportunity to come down here, and I was just in an awe. Walking on the backstretch, because back in the 80s, even into the 90s, early 2000, a lot of big stables came and they decorated the barn and they had all their harnesses hanged up front, and the landscaping and everything. It was just beautiful. And I'll be honest, the first time I heard Roger Houston's voice and calling some races, it was impressive.
John?
Yes. Of course, I've been coming here longer than Steve have, but I think that lately it's been a little more Ohio-oriented, which I think is great for Ohio, with the Stallion Series and then our Fair Racing Conference races, in addition to what it used to be, because it used to be pretty much outside of Ohio horses that raced here, and I think that's just a real feather in the hat for Ohio, and I pat ourselves on the back, OHHA, and what we've been able to develop, the program and how we've been able to develop it in Ohio for Ohio people. Yeah.
Delaware County is associated with the Little Brown Jug and Pacers. How do you, as a trotting guy, feel about just all the pacing stuff that goes on here? Or is it just you're a harness racing guy?
Yeah, I'm a harness racing guy. I used to have Pacers. I had a few pretty good ones, one by the name of Grain Dealer, another one named Bo Barron. When I first started coming here, great friend of mine, Daryl Sherman, and his wife, Betty Jo, had a box right straight across, almost at the wire. So we would come here every year as their guests, and you couldn't have better seats. And I can still remember Roger Houston with a statement, if you aren't on your feet now, I can't remember what he said, well, what's wrong with you, or you better get up now, and a few of the other famous quotes that he had. So
that was Falcon Sealster.
Yes, yes.
When he made that famous call.
Yeah, it was. I was already on my feet because when I saw three-quarter time, I go, whoa.
What makes this place so special?
I just, I think the fact that you've got some of the best horses in the world come here to this half-mile elegant track, manicured track, and, for years, it used to be if you wanted a seat outside of the grandstand, the cheap seats, you had to have your lawn chair buckled to the fence, chained to the fence, and that kind of staked out your spot. It was just it was a big deal. I mean, this county, a lot of people took most of that week off, and they came here and entertained friends. And it's gotten a little more condensed to Wednesday, Thursday. But I think for what John said, I said on the broadcast last year, I've used this line before. We have our super night in harness racing, which is the Sire Stake night. I kind of call this the World Series of Ohio racing, because each day we have different events that feature Ohio-bred horses, whether it's multiple divisions of the Buckeye Stallion Series or the Ohio Fair Racing Conference or some Breeders' Championship. Each day has its own story. And I just think it's, kind of the World Series of Ohio racing this week at Delaware, Sunday through Thursday.
The community just continues to embrace this with the horse parade the previous week. It's something you don't see in other counties, and I think that helps make it as special as it is.
Yeah, it's developed over the years where as far back as I can remember, it's always been a very important event the whole week for this county fair. And now I may be a little prejudiced because of the harness racing background, but it seems like the jug and the harness racing was the focus of the fair. I'm sure the folks with the saddle horses or the beef cattle or something like that would not agree with me, but and then they kind of build on this. And quite frankly, at home we have the National Tractor Pull. It brings in a lot of money to Wood County, as does the Little Brown Jug for Delaware County.
Steve, you mentioned it as the World Series of Ohio, and you see it's an Ohio Fair Racing Conference, but a lot of the other people nominate in just to this race just to be a part of racing at Delaware. Talk about the special feeling as an owner you would get as a participating here and what it means to win it. A track like this.
It means everything, and I think for those that grew up coming here, that have watched some of the great horses go across this track, and I've said this, we closed out the card yesterday with a $3,000 overnight trot. And Chris Page won that race with a horse he co-owns, and there were probably 20 people in the winner's circle, his wife Brianna and his young son Carter, and they were just as excited to win that last race. Maybe not quite as excited as when he won the jug, but they were very excited to win that. And I see that time and time again, people coming into the winner's circle, whether it's an Ohio Fair Racing Conference race or a Breeders' Championship. And I just think it's that aura that we have here at Delaware that, owners really like. And I think we have been able to tailor our programs to give that trainer the opportunity to best classify his horse, whether it be the Fair Conference or the Stallion Series or the Breeders' Championship, to be able to come have that opportunity at Delaware. And that's why you see outside of the Ohio Fair Racing Conference, we get a lot of nominations, as you originally asked, that way if their horse maybe isn't quite good enough for the Breeders' Championship, they've nominated to the Fair Conference to race this week.
John, you mentioned Wood County, the home county for both of you. It was a special year at Wood County this year for both of you. You both set track records with your two horses that sit at the top of the Signature Series standings. How important is the Signature Series to racing here in Ohio?
I think it's a great opportunity for the older horses, and especially for me. I'm able to drive him at the fairs. I kind of drove him here tonight, but I thought I'd put Ryan up and give him a little better chance of winning. And basically it's because those guys drive more races in a week than I drive all year. And what I find is I've kind of lost a sense of pace a little bit when I don't do it all the time. And but it gives those horses a chance to be successful. And it's something to shoot for. They keep the standings. There's a champion. They have this race here at Delaware at the end of the year, and it's just a great opportunity for horses that might not be open caliber, but they still have a chance to race at the fairs and make some decent money.
At Wood County, you both set track records. To have two OHHA presidents, past presidents, have their horses set track records at their home track, that had to be kind of special.
It wasn't expected. I mean, I know John well enough that he'll say the same thing. You don't go to a track with the idea of breaking a track record. You try to have the horse set up to be in a good position to win. And, for our family that day, the question, that I had asked my son if he wanted to come back and drive at his county fair. He had done it one other time. He came back and drove a horse for Ty Bates and was able to win. And he debated about it, and he came home late Saturday night. And we had talked about the race. He had an outside post, and I basically said, hey, you came here, send this horse down the road, leave out of there. And he did, got to the top, and again, we had no idea that he was going to break the track record. He didn't do it by a lot, but he broke it by a fifth of a second, and it was pretty special. He ended up leaving from the fairgrounds and went clear back to PA. But it was a pretty unique day to do that. Then 2 days later, John broke the track record, on the trot as well. And I thought our track was decent. Wasn't Delaware decent, but it was decent. But it's it still wasn't a lightning fast track, and to be able to break two relatively old track records, they weren't real fresh track records. I think they both were a few years old.
What went through your mind when you crossed the line? You heard it was a track record.
To be honest with you, after I got to the half and set those kind of fractions, I thought, well, it'd be nice if we could. So. I mean, I drove him probably to the middle of the stretch, and then I sat. 2 other times this year I missed the track record by 1/5 of a second. My friend Matt over here said, why didn't you turn him loose a little bit earlier? Particularly at Ottawa, Ohio. I think I missed it by a 1/5 of a second last year with the same sort of deal. But as my dad always said, you can't eat track records. So take care of your horse if you can, so that you could try it again next week.
Backseat
That's
driving.
my
over
philosophy.
There.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Stony Ridgetop and surfing in the canyon just a little bit more when we return to the Delaware County Fairgrounds. At Ohio State's Galbraith Equine Center, our veterinary champions are here for your champions 24/7, 365 days a year. Our expert team of boarded surgeons, sports medicine and rehabilitation specialists, together with veterinary cardiologists, internal medicine, and ophthalmologists, make our hospital your best resource for all sport horse performance issues. The Ohio State Veterinary Medical Center's Galbraith Equine Hospital. Call us today at 614-292-6661.
The future is bright in Ohio. Ohio Sire Stakes, Buckeye Stallion Series, 66 county and independent fairs. Whether it's the Ohio Sire Stakes, the Buckeye Stallion Series, or the county fairs, Ohio has a place for your racehorse. This year, Ohio breds are racing for nearly $23 million in stakes purses. Be part of the winning. Breed, buy, race, win in Ohio.
Welcome back to the Delaware County Fairgrounds. Frank Froz joined by John Konesky and Steve Bateson. They have the 2 horses that sit atop the Signature Series standings heading into the finals this week here at the Delaware County Fairgrounds. And we'll talk to John first since he's racing today with Stony Ridgetop. What would you tell somebody if they asked you, tell me about Stony Ridgetop?
He's just been one of those really good stories that happen. I've had a lot of them that weren't good stories, but he's one of the good ones. First of all, I kind of got interested in his sire. When his first crop came out, there were some horses that were racing and doing okay. And I looked at some of the stables that they were in, and I thought, I think this horse will be all right, because it wasn't like top-notch stables. And I don't mean to degrade anybody, but that's just one of the observations that I will make, particularly like when we used to be in the old claimant days and my dad would go through like 40 horses in a year. That was one of the things that you looked at. So I always liked that sire. The problem was most of those colts were small. I said, if I ever found a big one, I'd really like to give it a try. And when I watched the videos, I went to the sale, and I go, this horse has some size. And out of a good mare, she produced quite well, produced racehorses, 2-year-old speed, and I was pretty determined to buy him. And I got lucky enough to be able to take him home. And he's been just a great horse ever since.
Lifetime, 51 starts, 27 wins, 14 seconds, 2/3, $123,000 in earnings. This year has been just on a roll. 11 out of 12, had an 8-race winning streak. What was that like?
Oh, it's great. One of my horse's biggest assets is gate speed. And when we were at the fair, as long as I drew the first tier, I knew he was going to get a pretty good seat, usually to the front, as you can see by the lines. But it was just there. He could control the race. And, we've had some of the fair races where we trot home in 58 seconds, last quarter in 28 and change. And at most fairs, they're not going to get around you too much with fractions like that.
Last year here, you finished second in the Signature Series final. You won here in 22 with Stony Ridgetop in the Ohio Fair Racing Championship 3-year-old colt division. Mm-hmm. Why does he like this track so much?
It's just good footing. It has some cushion. He doesn't sting his feet, particularly the front feet, which some horses can overcome, other ones can't. But it's just a great feeling when you're out on a racetrack and you're going by, or the horses go by and you don't hear them. Whereas some of the racetracks that we've been in, they could be at the grandstand, you could be on the far side of the track, and you can hear them pounding the ground. And he just, on a 3, when he was here as a 3-year-old, he was definitely on a roll. Won the fair championship that year and went on Northfield to win the final there, which was great. Last year, I had 2-hole. I didn't get away very well. I'll have to chalk it up to maybe a bad drive. But he did come on good, race strong after that, finished second. So you can't complain about that.
Today you draw the 8-hole. Ryan Stahl driving for you. Can he get out to the front from the 8-hole here?
Well, I'm not sure we want to. I'd like to have a little horse left and we're coming home. So that's up to Ryan. I won't tell him how to drive him. As I say, he drives way more than I do. It's just very unfortunate because on a half-mile track, if you draw the 7 or 8-hole, you are definitely handicapped. Our sport is unique in the standpoint that part of the race, and I don't know what percentage, but I think a very important part of the race, is determined by the draw of the race. If you have 2 or 3 horses that are of equal quality and equal racing abilities and the way they race, the ones that draw on the inside are going to be perfect. Better, I should say, and the one on the outside is handicapped. I can point out last year at the Signature Series fair races, I raced against a horse, I Get It. And he and Stony were very, very similar in their racing abilities and their styles and stuff like that. But I never drew inside of him. I could get about this far from getting around him before we got the first turn, but I couldn't quite get around him. And I never did beat him. And I never did get a chance to see if I drew inside, if I could. Bob sold him over the winter, and he was racing out east and doing well.
You mentioned Bob sold him. Has anybody ever offered to buy Stony Ridgetop from you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this year, boy, I can't even say how many. It seemed like every week I would get 1 or 2 calls. The last man that called me, he was from the Columbus area, and he says, "Is he for sale?" And I says, "No." I said, "I just do this for fun anymore," and he's a lot of fun. And he just laughed. He says, "I completely understand." I said, "Thank you," and there you go.
What if somebody threw a number at you that just was
It's not-
shocking?
No, I don't. I do this because I like to. I won't say that the money's not important, but it's not essential to me. And which is totally against the way I used to be and the way my dad taught me. But horses like this, and both his personality in the barn and his racing ability, they don't come along very often. There's a lot of good horses nowadays, a lot of fast horses, but he's just different. He's cool.
There you go. Steve, let's talk about your horse. He has been on a roll this year, 14 starts, 11 wins, 2 seconds, a 9-race win streak. If somebody asked you about Surfing in the Canyon, what would you tell them about the horse?
He's a lot of fun. I mean, he's a nice horse. He has a very good, friendly disposition. My youngest boy and wife actually really take to him. He's a unique guy. I mean, anybody could jog him. He jogs on the trot. You have to really work to get him to pace. I mean, really work. I mean, either put hobbles on him or kind of work his mouth over. He loves to trot, and he basically trots.
I knew I
every
liked
day.
him.
Yeah, he does. And he's not fast like Stony on the trot, but he can trot all day long out there, about 250. So he means a lot to me. We bought him, and he's a homebred for Bill Webb and Kevin Apple, who's also up in Northwest Ohio, Defiance County. And Bill primarily likes to race young horses, and early in his 4-year-old year, they made a decision that they might want to sell him. So I went over and jogged him. The gentleman that takes care of him said, "Now, Steve, he's a little bit unique. He's probably going to gallop, or he might trot. You might have trouble getting him to pace." And I went over, took him, 3-4 laps, and thought, he's all right. And I talked to, at the time, Jason Brewer was training for me, and my longtime partner, Hal Moore. We kind of were looking for a young horse that still fit the non-winners. And at that particular time, this horse had won one non-winners of one race. He had won a bunch of fair races, but he was still eligible to race in non-winners of 2, 3, and 4. So we bought him off of a win, and I think we won 2 in a row with him right away. And he went some big miles, and as the year drug on, he started looking a little bit tired. And my partner and I kind of wanted to shut him down, get him out of the non-winners to be claimed. He'd never raced in those, but we were running out of places to race, and we bought Jason out, and the plan was to give him, the fall and summer off, and that I would probably bring him back and train him this year. And that's what we did. I lost my partner in January, and he had actually trained a horse that was related to Surfing the Canyon. We learned that later. He had trained a gelding that was, his mother was sisters to this Surfing the Canyon's mother. And Hal Moore, he had passed away in January, but our plan was to be a little easier on him, go to some fairs and pick our spots. Because I think most horses really don't peak until somewhere between 4 and 6, and especially if they're not over raced. And I think this horse began to peak this year. He got some confidence at the fair, and we're gonna go to Hollywood after Delaware and probably race. And there is 2 more signature series, Coshocton and Lancaster, but that's the only thing I've thought about this summer is, Hal would have really enjoyed, and I'm sure he's watching how much fun we've had with him this summer. So, Surfing the Canyon, I think, has had a little bit of a guardian angel over that 9 win streak. I mean, it's these 2 horses are very unique. They both lost their win streaks at Wauseon. Both horses won the Ohio Fair racing as 3-year-olds. Stony Ridgetop was the champ. Surfing the Canyon was the champ that year. Stony Ridgetop went on and won the fair championship. Surfing the Canyon was second that year. They both won 27, 26 races. Very similar. They're both 5-year-olds. So it's been kind of a unique story when you kind of look back at both of them's history.
Twin brothers of a different gait.
Correct.
There you go.
Correct.
Your son has driven them a number of times.
Yep.
That's got to be, fun. This being a real family affair, Case driving, Levi taking care of him, your wife helping.
Yeah. Case, I don't remember the circumstances. I think Bellefontaine and Wilmington were on the same day. And Mark St. Louis had drove the horse very effectively all year. And Mark had texted me, like, I don't know that I'm going to be able to make it back. Do you think Case would be, and Mark knows Case. So I text Case. I said, it's a long drive to come from, he lives near Pittsburgh. Would you want to drive Surfing the Canyon? And he said, sure, Dad, I'll come back. And drove it that night, did an excellent job. And I looked at the schedule. We had a gap. And I asked Case, I said, I'll put him in at Scioto. Do you want to come drive him at Scioto? and he did, and gave him a masterful drive. Came from off cover and set a new lifetime mark with him at Scioto the following week, and 150 and 3/5. So that has been pretty cool. And I've had some people rib me a little bit about, you're going to let Case drive at Delaware, and the Meadows doesn't race this week. And I talked to Case about it. Mark St. Louis got him in this spot. I told him that I probably put Mark down, and I didn't want to upset Case. And I would love, Case to have the opportunity to drive him. I just personally felt like that was the right thing to do, that Mark had put him in the spot to be in the final, but the youngest boy, Levi, has trained this horse on my home track in 2.5 in a jog cart, and he did it for fun. And I remember that day when he came in, because he was supposed to go in 2:15. And and I didn't get mad. We kind of talked about how to set fractions, and Levi was, I think he was expecting me to get mad at him, but for a 15-year-old that weighs 100 pounds to train him on a farm track in 2.5 is pretty good.
Teaching him well there. Case, you ask him to drive, he drives. You probably ask him to cut the grass. He'll never cut the grass for him there at the house, though. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, our final segment, we're going to talk about the state of racing here in the Buckeye State when we return to Trackside Live.
Do you want your horse to shine in the winner's circle? Feed DAC Oil. It makes a world of difference.
With more than 300,000 horses in Ohio, the economic impact of the equine industry in the state is over $2.8 billion. Much of that value comes from standardbred horse owners, breeders, trainers, and drivers who participate in the sport of harness racing. The mission of the Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association is to preserve, protect, promote, and serve the entire standardbred industry in Ohio and beyond. To learn more about the Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association, go to ohha.com. That's ohha.com.
Welcome back to Trackside Live here at the Delaware County Fairgrounds. Frank Froz along with John Konesky and Steve Bateson. First thing, gentlemen, Ohio, we're in a good spot, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely.
Put that up there, John.
I think we are so unique, and we in Ohio are so lucky that we have so many different levels that we can race at. The fairs this year, if you want one division, we raced for $12,000. That's unbelievable. 4 or 5 years ago, somebody told me that. I said, what are you smoking? But we've done it. The Buckeye Stallion Series, which Steve initiated and got going. It's another level. Then you have the Sire Stakes, which, the top level. And then, of course, then we got the racetracks for the older horses. And most places we go for very good money. I raced a lot up in Michigan, and I watched that program just pretty much die. There used to be 5 or 6 tracks. That was the place to be. The purses were great. And then they couldn't fight the casinos, and everything just fell apart for them. Tore down the last racetrack not too long ago, and it was sad because I used to spend a lot of time there. I won a lot of races there, and it's just a thing of the future. But in Ohio, we're building new tracks, new plants. Fair program, we've expanded, 1 or 2 fairs this summer. Hopefully we don't lose anymore, but I guess that's up to the individual counties and their financial situations and leadership and all that kind of thing. But For the variety and opportunities we have, you can't beat Ohio.
Steve, the breeding just continues to get so much better. You touched on it during the break, the Signature Series, all Ohio breds, and the fact that the number of Ohio breds that are going to be at the Lexington sale and the Harrisburg sale. We just got done with the jug sale this past week, which was very successful from all indications. The breeding just continues to get better in Ohio.
Yeah, and to think that we would have a sale with the numbers that we had and the fact that there's over 100 horses that are Ohio breds, high-level ones that weren't even in that sale that are going to Lexington or Harrisburg. And we've got another sale in Springfield in the latter part of October that there's like 360 Ohio breds going to be in that sale is remarkable. One of the things that does concern me is having enough owners and buyers for all these good bred horses. And I think, we've got to be aware of that. And that's part of the reason that we have all these opportunities is to give these horses a chance to recoup some of that owner's money. It doesn't go without saying our program, we can only do so much. And without the help of the permit holders, we have nothing. And the permit holders put on all these events. And on top of that, they write overnight races that are Ohio preference races that give a young horse for non-winners of 1, 2, 4, 6 a chance to go for very respectable money. We always have 2 permit holders open throughout the year, whether you're going to Northfield, which is open all year long, or going to the south, Hollywood at Dayton that's about to open, and in January Miami Valley opens, and El Dorado Scioto Downs is getting ready to close. That gives a trainer the flexibility, to classify that horse. And I don't think you've got a better breeding program than anywhere in the country. I mean, Pennsylvania is very good, but again, I don't think they quite have the opportunities for younger horses if they're not high level to recoup that money. Most of the fair races in Pennsylvania go for $3,500 to $6,500. And they don't have that many fairs at race. I think we're at 65 county fairs here in Ohio.
Well, brighter days continue to shine ahead for the Buckeye State with everything that's going on. That wraps it up for today. We've run out of time, gentlemen. I want to thank both of you for coming to join us today. John, best of luck.
Thank you.
This
You are
afternoon.
welcome.
Steve, best of luck on Thursday afternoon. Want to thank everybody who joined us for Trackside Live today. Be sure to join us at 12:40 this afternoon for Countdown to Post Time, and that'll be followed by day 2 of 5 days in Delaware. 18 races on the card from the Delaware County Fairgrounds. We'll see you at 12:40. Goodbye, everybody.
This has been Trackside Live. Trackside Live is presented by the Ohio State Veterinary Medical Center. Trackside Live is a production of the Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association.